I think it's actually very similar to the Flames. The right side up front, you got Jake Virtanen, with Toffoli leaving and Jake Virtanen having a season that gave us hope again. We're hoping that there's hope that he can step up into a top 6 role. If not, then there definitely needs to be something done there. They've got Adam Gaudette. What is he going to be able to take strides this year and become like a third line center that can be relied on? Because if he can do that, then that'll become huge for the Canucks. And then defense pairs. I think Canucks fans are all hoping for Quinn Hughes and Tyler Myers, and then Edler and Nate Schmidt. So again, really? Devin talking about having offensive defensemen and defensive defensemen paired together to work together that way. And then the bottom pair is going to be very interesting. The Canucks brass is high on Olli Juolevi being ready to play this year. So we'll get potentially 10 games of Tkachuk versus Juolevi, which will be fantastic.
Will it?
But there's also Jack Rathbone, who they signed out of college this past summer, and he's got skating abilities that are very good and already NHL ready, according to a lot of the scouts. So they've got a couple young guys on the left side, as well as Brogan Rafferty, who lit up the AHL last year, and then they just kept spouting Jalen Chatfield as a possibility. So you got all of them, and then Jordy Ben to round out the the players that are going to be battling for the last 2-3 defense spots on this roster. So, but yeah, I think it really comes down to the defense pairings, as well as what does the right side of the Canucks forward lines look like going into game 1 versus Edmonton.
So I see even Canucks Army, just looking at this now, has Hughes with Myers. You not Hughes with Schmidt, okay?
No, again, I totally agree with Devin on the fact that I want to be able to have 2 really good puck movers on both your top 2 pairs. And Hughes and Myers played a little bit last year together. We're a very possession positive pair, and that usually trends better. So I think that's a good way to handle it, and it might make the Tyler Myers contract, at least for this season, look a little bit better. And then you've got and then you can throw out you can play then once that pairs off, you can throw out Edler and Schmidt, and you've got another pair that has a top end puck mover in Nate Schmidt, and a pair that you could probably pair up against top lines if you wanted to hard match as well, because Schmidt is also pretty adept at playing shutdown defense as well. So I don't think that Hughes and Schmidt is an option, at least to start games. If you're behind and you want to load up and start like just causing terror for the opposing teams when they hop over the boards, then yeah, go for it. But I think when you start the game off, I think it makes a lot of sense to balance it out a little bit more and have Hughes and Myers as a pair and Edler as Schmidt as your other top 4 pair.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm more apt for Schmidt, but I hear what you're saying. I just think that like if you're going to throw, you said what I think is the most important part of this is if you want to create terror, Hughes and Schmidt can create that terror and that pressure. This is no disrespect to Myers, but I do feel like Schmidt and Hughes would be a more dynamic pair than Myers.
Oh, definitely, but you still need to balance it out. Like then you're stuck with Edler and Myers as a pair. Talk about potential old man pair, and foot speed issues. Like that's why you split. That's why you're going to split Schmidt and Hughes up. You need that foot speed on both pairs.
I don't think Tyler Myers is that slow.
It's more about his acceleration than anything else. Once he's like 3 strides in, then yeah, he's okay. But they got a long leg, so those 3 strides, goes from the top of the circle just outside the blue line. That's saying something when he's going up ice.
That's fair. He's only 30 years old, though.
I know. I played with him. I played against him.
Yeah, unfortunately, 30 years old is part of the is when you start to see the decline a lot. So that's one of the issues. Like we're watching World Juniors, and one of the like Shakir Makamadoulan has been a bit of a giraffe out there at times, like stumbling on the ice and on the pivots. And Myers has that issue as well at times. So if you're going to, that's why you want to be able to pair him with someone who can skate like Quinn Hughes, or whatever. But like I said, I do not want Edler and Myers as a pair, because I do not like the foot speed issues with that pairing.
Could you imagine McDavid coming down, one-on-one with one of those guys? Because McDavid made Morgan Rielly look like a complete fool last year, if you don't remember that. And Morgan Rielly, he's not sleight of foot. Like he can skate, and he's a good fucking defender.
Yeah,
man.
So I said, and that's why I like split them up. You got to be able to split them up and have the balance on there. This isn't like the NBA where you can have like one line and one player really help dominate a game. That's you need to be able to have skill and puck moving and fleet of foot defensemen on every pair now.
You got to have all lines firing, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest question going into camp is what is Jake Virtanen? Where is he at in his development? That's the major thing that for Canucks fans that I'd be wondering about. Another thing would be I guess his develop, like the way that he prepares for a game, because I've heard that as well, is that he doesn't seem like he is very engaged, and he just shows up and whatever happens. It's kind of very maybe in a different way than Phil Kessel, but a Phil Kessel-esque attitude towards preparation. And I guess with this time off, it'd be very. I'm curious to see what Coach Green says about him and how he is as far as conditioning, where his head's at overall. So yeah, that overall I think is the major thing. But another thing I'm kind of curious about is Brock Besser. How is he going to be this year? He got injured last year. I feel like he wasn't playing at the top of his game, and I feel like there is a different another level that he can get to, maybe more so towards his rookie year when he was a part of the All-Star game, and Sidney Crosby came up to him and said, "Oh, hey, so you have a good shot there." Kind of Brock Besser. I feel like he needs to step it up to in order for Vancouver to be successful. And whether or not another one would be TJ Miller. JT Miller. Sorry, I always screw that up between him and the comedian. I apologize. Whether or not he is going to be as effective of a player, and if he potentially has another level to him as well. So those are kind of like the storylines I'm following, along with the defense and where everybody slots in there. So, and I guess I'm kind of curious about the where the goaltenders are at, what the split's going to look like for Holtby, how many games he's going to get, and how that relationship is going to be. Because once again, it's very similar to Calgary, and who's going to push who. I think that is very intriguing, and to see potentially if Thatcher Demko can take that next step as well. So there's a lot going on here with these two teams, and it'd be a completely different story if Michael Furlan was ready to go and ready to jump in as well. But obviously he's not, and hopefully he's doing well and has a speedy recovery and is able to play this year. Because if he comes back and is able to play the way that he plays, especially within a tightened season, shortened season, then watch out for Vancouver Canucks, because that solidifies that top six pretty damn quick.
I don't expect to see Ferland back this year. He's not even coming to camp. I think he's, from what I've heard, he's staying at home. So they just have to go through the paperwork to put him on LTIR at the most opportune time with the the cap situation. But I expect Demko to be the guy to start, depending on how quickly Holtby picks up the changes that and everything that Ian Clark's going to work on him with. So I expect Demko to be sort of the guy who shoulders the load, at least to start. But yeah, I agree with you, Devin. For seeing where Virtanen is at is a huge story. But with Besser, he's built out his game into a more well-rounded game, so he doesn't have to be the one-shot sniper that he was in his first.
But that's his bread and butter, man.
But if he can get back to that makes him just what, like, gets the Canucks to a point where, like, they've got like a handful of really good players that can carry this team through a short season. So in a way, I disagree with your assessment, but I do agree that if Besser can kind of, his shooting can rebound, then watch out, because the Canucks are going to be absolutely deadly, because they'll be able to play, especially, it doesn't matter what line he'll play on, because I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jake Virtanen with Pettersson and Miller to start, just because they'll want to be able to have Bo Horvat as and his line has more of a playing a little bit against the tougher matchups. So Pearson, Horvat, and Besser being having the bigger build and being able to and being a lot more responsible defensively will fit into that more. So, and if that's the case, then Brock Besser's shooting at the rate he was in his first couple seasons and putting up like a 25 goal plus rate, that's not just that the Canucks that have two lines that can you have to watch out for, and you won't be able to match up against just one.
What's more important though? What makes Brock Besser more important to the Canucks? Him as a let's say 20, just under 20 goal scorer, but he's good. How good is he defensively, I guess, is my question in comparison. Is he more beneficial being a 200-foot player, or is it more important for him to score 25 to 30 goals? I think it's more important for him to score 25 to 30 goals, because that is his bread and butter, and that's where he makes a big difference. I mean, yes, sure, being a 200-foot player is more ideal, but you got to make sure you score the goals, because you're right, man. If they do shut down that top scoring line, then that's an issue. And Brock Besser, he needs to show up. He needs to be able to score those goals. I think that's the most important thing for him.
And he had a good spurt early in the season last year where he was playing that way. Like I said, I think he's probably closer to a 200-foot 25 goal scorer more than a 30 goal, like less than 200-foot guy.
Is that like where you want him to be, where you think he can be? Or is that his potential? Or like
I think that's where he's at right now. I think he can get it back up to that 30 goal plateau for sure. He's got the shot, especially if they can work it around and give him a little, like a split second more to shoot that puck. That's all he needs. He's one of those guys that if you give him a split second more, he's going to find that hole in the goalie and score. So, like I said, I really do think that he's going to take it to the next level this year. I think this is a rebound year for him, and that will be huge, because I do see that there might be a bit of a regression from JT Miller, but I don't think it'll be that much. But I do think that Brock Besser stepping up will be something that will be huge for the Canucks with this season, if they're going to be proving a lot of the critics wrong and pushing into that top four of this North Division.
But where is he more effective then? Do you put him with Pettersson or do you put him with Horvat?
Unfortunately, you have to go with he's better with Pettersson, but again, it's all about balance in these lines going into this season because I don't see the fit with Jake Virtanen on Bo Horvat's wing, and when you so you're gonna have to try Virtanen and go just see if you can like absolutely just skate the other team into the ground with Pettersson, Virtanen, and JT Miller on the top line, and then hope that you can grind out a bunch of goals with Horvat and Besser. So there's not a. I would prefer to see him with Pettersson, but there isn't a good option for that right wing for Bo Horvat if that's the case.
Okay, so one of the other questions that now comes up then is, and we have to talk about it because he's part of the vernacular of Canucks Twitter.
I know.
Louis Eriksson.
You can't even spell his name right, Kevin.
Well, okay.
Okay.
It's no C.
No C.
Oh, no C.
Hey, sometimes, I'm going quickly, and that happens. Okay, but okay, some we heard this. I heard this on the C4 podcast as an example. Is do we expect him to play second line minutes?
Not to start.
No. I don't think he's playing on the second line at all. I really don't. I don't see. I see fourth line. I see him in the situations that Louis Eriksson is Louis in, but I just don't see it. Now, of course, a lot of that is going to have to do with what happens with Virtanen, but I really don't see Louis Eriksson being on the second line.
Travis Green loved him there. He loved him there during the return to play, and he thought that he was very effective there. So I personally wouldn't be surprised if he's there.
That's because Jake Virtanen wasn't effective. That's because he really didn't have a lot of other options.
Yeah. The way I look at it is that they're going to give Virtanen some rope here, and they're going to give him a shot. They're going to see what they have. They're going to give him that top six shot that to see if he can stick. Because if he can stick and he can play it, then in the top six role, the Canucks are a better team. If he can't, that's when Louis comes in, unfortunately. But I think Louis starts on the fourth line at best, if not in the press box. You've got Zach McEwen pushing for a spot. You've got Niels Hoglander coming in, chomping at the bit. You've got Cole Lind chomping at the bit.
Zach McEwen.
Yeah, I just said Zach McEwen.
Did you say Zach McEwen? Did my ears hear that? Because they didn't register, but I...
But you got Jace Hallerla coming in, looking to make a splash. Someone who a lot of people think hasn't gotten there, could be the next sort of Josh Levo. Didn't get a good enough look in his previous spots. So there's a lot of opportunity on that right side. And then you got Brandon Sutter as well, depending on how they want to line up the centers. The way I look at it is, if Virtanen Virtanen hits in that top six, Louis not going to see much time there, if any at all. But if Virtanen stumbles, that's Louis' opportunity.
Once again, it's a shortened season, so you will see Louis Eriksson. There's no ifs, ands, or buts whether or not he starts in the press box or he comes in a quarter or even half the way through the season. You will see him at some point.
Oh yeah, no, but I think we're not expecting him on the top two lines. Is my point. The other I want to precurse this because this is going to sound like a little bit of a panic, and this may sound ridiculous. But this is a sophomore year, and sophomore years can always
You shut your mouth, Kevin. I know where you're going with this. You shut your mouth.
I just want to ask, what do you expect from Quinn Hughes this year?
More of the same.
Challenges that he's going to deal with. He is going to miss Tanev. That will be an adjustment that he's going to have to deal with. I'm sure he'll be fine. But also, I think, how much ice time is he going to get this year? Because I suspect that Green is going to want to play him a lot more.
Yeah, and he's going to be fine. I think looking back at how this whole 2020 played out, they Quinn Hughes basically got a second off season from when things shut down in March and then to when things kicked off again in August. That's like what a normal off season, even if you get to the Stanley Cup Finals, is 2.5 months, right? And then you look at what that one was. It was March, April, May, June, July, August. You got 5.5, 6 months to prep, to get stronger, and then you got a couple more months again. So I do not have any concerns about a sophomore slump with Quinn Hughes.
As far as a slump goes, what is defined as a slump? Is his numbers?
Slump is.
Is it his numbers that are his offensive numbers that are going to decrease because he's going to want to be more focused on the defensive side of things? I see him wanting to round out his game more. I see him wanting to be more defensive because that was his that was his problem in the playoffs / return to play, was the fact that his defensive side of the puck wasn't really up to where it should be, and that's where
he only really struggled when he was injured.
I'm sick of the excuses. I don't want to hear that. That's
well, it's the truth.
No, it's not. No, stop.
It is. Like, he was injured to begin the Vegas series at the end of St. Louis, and that's when you had him struggle. Those games were when he struggled the most. He had major issues.
That's an excuse, man. That is such an excuse.
It's not an excuse. It's freaking.
If he was injured, why the fuck was he playing?
He wasn't injured that far.
In the playoffs when you're injured, though, that happens. Everyone.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is that like his defensive play was exploited, whether he was injured or not. There's players out there who get injured during the playoffs or whenever, and their play does not deter. It does not veer off. And the way that we are talking about him as being fucking up here, that needs to change. Like, depending on this, on the injury, depending on whether or not he. I see that as an issue, and I see that as a potential a dip in his offensive numbers because he wants to get better defensively. And sure, that could have been the issue going forward, but I don't know. I feel like Tanev was able to plug those holes in his game. And listen, Tyler Myers is not a Chris Tanev, and that could exploit him and them as a pairing together for the offensive onslaught that they could be facing here in the Northern Division.
Before you say something, Sean, what I do think is going to happen a little bit more this year is teams are going to prepare for him and game plan for him specifically. So that is just part of natural, I think, is natural progression, right? You do that with all superstars. Cale Makar, I think, will have that too. Quinn Hughes is going to go through that. So to me, I think my questions are not like, I don't expect a disastrous season. That's not what I'm saying from Quinn Hughes, but I do think that there's going to be some new challenges that Quinn Hughes will face.
Yeah, that's every season for every player, though. We saw that with Elias Pettersson last year, and he was still one hell of a player.
Okay, but how many players do we say is the best player on the team? We usually say it's one or two. In this case, it's Quinn Hughes. And you would agree that the Canucks are driven through Quinn Hughes. Fair?
Hughes and Petey run the show, yes.
Yeah. So adjusting to that is, as a superstar, as a star player, is part of that maturation process. I'm not saying.
Remember, he just went through the return to play where he played Minnesota in 5 games, St. Louis 6 games, Vegas 6 games, where they game planned for him, especially Vegas, and he still found a way to be very, very good.
So you don't think that there'll be even a slight step back?
I think he's gonna develop as a defenseman. I think he is gonna round out his game. Maybe he doesn't take a huge leap forward offensively, but he doesn't have that much more to take. Like, he put up 53 points in 68 games last year. Like, if he puts up 40 points in 56, that's still really freaking good. And if that's the case, a tiny step back in terms of points while he's still being Quinn Hughes and creating offense, getting the puck out of the defensive zone with his legs and his passing ability, creating offense, even if he doesn't get a point, or creating offensive chances, can controlling the puck, then that's fine. Like if he takes a slight step back points wise, I don't think he's going to take a step back in terms of the level of his play.
Okay. I'm just curious where people are at, because I mean this market will defend him, and that's fine. But I'm just curious what we're going to see from him. It's not uncommon to see a sophomore struggles. That is common with rookie players, and that's why I brought it up.
And I get it, but like I said before, this is such a different year. He's had basically 2 off seasons since his quote unquote rookie year because of COVID. Because of COVID, right? So he's had 6 to 8 months to naturally mature physically. Like we've heard rumors that Petey's put on 10 pounds since the bubble, and that'd be great for him because that's something that he needs as well. He needs to be able to bulk up, but bulk up naturally. I remember last year when I saw Brock Besser come into camp, I'm like, ooh, that looks a little big. Just a little bit, like, because you worry about foot speed is key. Playing with speed and having foot speed is key in this game in today's NHL. So that's what I said. I think if he does take a step back offensively in terms of point production, I don't think his game is going to take a step back.
Why would his game take a step back if his offensive output isn't the same?
Because there's other things where he's still probably, like I said, if he put up 53 points in 68 games, if he isn't at that same point per game rate, but is still using his hockey smarts, his passing, his skating abilities to control the game, get the puck out of the defensive zone, transition the puck up ice, use it to create offensive chances, then his game isn't taking a step back.
Well, that's exactly what I said. You guys got caught off of me saying that he was injured and that his defensive game was shit. But I was talking about that. Exactly.
I hear you. I hear it. Any other things we need to talk about with the Canucks?
Again, taxi squad. The taxi squad battle again is going to be something to watch.
Can we call it what it is? Let's call it
the taxi squad.
Lift squad. Come on, you lift.
Okay, Frankie. If you want that to be the sponsorship, you can have it. But you've got Niels Hoglander coming over. The AHL looks like it's starting up beginning of February, so you still got a couple weeks there. Do you hold on to some AHL players there, level player like a Niels Hoglander, where you might want to play him in the AHL, or do you want to just send him right down for camp? With Vancouver and Calgary, it gets complicated more because of where their AHL affiliates are. It's not like you can call people up and not have to worry about a 10-day quarantine.
That's why the taxi squad's there.
That's why the taxi squad's there. So, but again, it's all about, okay, who do you put on it? Like, are you going to shuffle players back and forth between the roster, the 22, 23 man roster, and the taxi squad, or what, to get playing time for players? So, because
yes. The answer is yes, Sean.
Yeah, but you look at that. They said Niels Hoglander, Cole Lind, Jace Hallerock are all pushing for spots. Justin Bailey, don't remember this name, Mark McCallis. The Canucks are very big on him. They signed him out of NCAA. He's a German kid. Went out and played some games in Germany already this year, back in the fall and the early winter. And then on the blue line, you've got we talked about Olli Juolevi and Rathbone and Rafferty. Again, it's playing around with that, right? So I'm gonna be very interested to see who actually gets put on the taxi squad out of camp because of the quarantine issues with going back to and from Utica.
Don't think that teams aren't going to try and I guess the northern teams are going to try and exploit that a little bit in the sense that they're going to have their taxi squad, and those are going to be the main guys that are going to be in, and now the lineup. And it's going to, and for those of you who don't know, it's going to be the same thing as being called up from like as far as Calgary goes, Stockton or Utica for Vancouver. You still have to go through waivers. You're not waiver exempt. If you have to go through waivers, you have to go through waivers. But I do see them potentially if having players up here, not technically on the taxi squad, but they're here in Canada, potentially ready to play, and are skating outside of being within, the NHL realm.
I've also heard of ideas of these teams placing one or two players on the Canadian AHL teams.
Yeah, I could see that too.